Welcome in, Oklahoma Sooners fans and college football fans, all in of very similar hobbies, similar things that we enjoy. Anyways, welcome into Oklahoma at the voice of college football. Oklahoma Sooners live here tonight. Of course, always join us here on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I'm a couple minutes late. For those of you who don't know, I also cover OU baseball. And do a lot of that coverage over at OU Insider. So if you want to follow in with Oklahoma baseball and keep up to date over there, make sure to go check that out. I am doing a lot over there right now, at least as much as I can. And so trying to keep up with baseball. If you're trying to keep up with Oklahoma baseball, I really don't know anywhere that does it the way that we're doing over at OU Insider right now, and this is something that's new. So go check that out if you are into Oklahoma baseball, ouinsider.com. But anyways, that's why I'm a little bit late. Had to kind of keep up with some news. Some news might break. I'm watching my phone. It might end up breaking during this. So if you're watching live and you're into Oklahoma baseball, then first of all, if you're not into Oklahoma baseball, you should go and support the guys. I mean, they had a great season this year, good season this year, only a few steps away from being a great season, and they're making some really good moves. And so I have to keep my eye on that a little bit tonight because that's something that I do. But anyways, welcome into Oklahoma at the voice of college football. This is Oklahoma Sooners Live. Again, join every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And of course, join this same channel. Join Chad and Tierney Smith on Mondays at the same time. Mondays, 7 p.m. Central Time to join Chad and Tierney Smith, the Sooner Smiths. And then, of course, make sure to join this Thursday for the live call-in show. We'd love to hear you guys jump in and join in over there. But it's going to be a fun show. We're going to talk a little bit of Oklahoma Sooners' schedule going into this upcoming season. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Two free and easy, quick ways to help this channel keep on growing, talking all things Oklahoma football here on this channel. Again, if you'd like to hear a little bit more of other sports, such as baseball, which is something that I'm covering pretty in-depth right now, go check that out over at Sooner Spotlight. Anyways, let's get into it because there's quite a bit. When we look at this upcoming season, there's quite a bit that goes into it. And Oklahoma doesn't have much of an easier schedule. The 2025 football schedule is going to be a gauntlet and would make even some of the toughest teams question whether they're going to win some of these games. And if you haven't had a chance to go and look through this schedule and really dive into it and recognize how difficult this schedule is for the Sooners, I mean, I really don't know many other schedules that would be tougher. Now, I think this schedule gets a little bit easier when you consider that there's some moving parts. There's some maybe newer faces to the organization. Maybe there's specifically newer quarterbacks, and we'll dive into that. We'll talk about that a little bit. But going through and seeing this schedule, it's the same schedule as last season as far as the SEC goes. And even in the non-conference, still have Temple, who's a team that Oklahoma faced last season, dealt with them just fine, as they should. But now you go on the road, you go up to not really at Temple, but it's going to be in Philadelphia. I believe that one's at the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium. So if you're a Sooner fan looking for new venues to try out, that's definitely a great one. Of course, a couple of new SEC environments to go check out this season too. But kind of diving into this, you got Michigan, Texas, South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, and LSU all in one schedule. The only schedule when I have dived, however you want to put the past tense in, when I look through other teams' schedules and see what they've got on their slate, I don't know if there's any other than maybe Florida that are quite as tough as what Oklahoma's got. And I know, like I said, I understand that there's some new faces that you're going to see, specifically at quarterback, which means a lot, and Oklahoma fans know that. But they're still pretty tough teams, and what I want to look at here, and then the main thing is, as Oklahoma fans, we're all kind of questioning this. Can the Sooners, coming off of a 6-7 SEC debut, can they rise to the challenge that they've got ahead of them this upcoming season with a very similar schedule and punch their ticket, maybe to the college football playoff? That's what Oklahoma fans want. And, that might be reaching a little too high. Maybe just reaching for 8 games is enough to feel satisfied. And I can understand that. And I personally, I think if you reach 8 games, you feel better about the direction of the way things are going. You don't feel good because you're shooting for 9 or 10. Ultimately, that's what Oklahoma fans want. But to be realistic, if Oklahoma were to reach 8 games, would you feel better about the situation that they're in, especially with this schedule, knowing that next season the schedule, specifically the SEC part of the schedule, should look much different? I think there's a lot. With the 2025 schedule, the playoff chances with a new offense, new quarterback, even though it's not a new offense to the quarterback. That's why I would say that the new quarterback doesn't mean as much as what new quarterbacks to other teams would be, because this is a new quarterback to Oklahoma, but a quarterback that is going into his 3rd season in this system, understands it well enough to even be able to teach it to the guys around him. And I've dove well into John Mateer in the past. Go back and check that out. If you're wondering a little bit more about how I feel about John Mateer going into his 1st season as a Sooner. But also you think about the high stakes that specifically going into the Texas game, what that feels like, to be a game, really a season-defining moment, how you perform in that game, because Texas is also another team that is expected to perform really well this upcoming season. So we'll dive into all of this. First, breaking down OU's brutal 2025 schedule. And when we take a look at this schedule overview, you got key games, September 6th being probably the biggest right away, and that's against Michigan. And I'll pull this graphic up too, because it kind of gives you an idea. It doesn't really tell you everything, but it gives you an idea. It's not in order, so just recognize that. This is a graphic that the Oklahoma Sooners page put out. So this is what Oklahoma fans have to look forward to. Not a fun schedule when you really dive into it. So that's something to take a look at and recognize. Just looking at it, the home SEC opponents alone are pretty tough. I know Auburn might be a little bit of a question mark. And then Mizzou is always kind of like, Oklahoma should always be better than Mizzou, but Mizzou is known to take down guys bigger than them. So that's one thing. When you look at the away SEC opponents, of course, one of them being a neutral site game against Texas, the 3 away games that Oklahoma has, and then, of course, even the Texas being included in with that, that's a really tough go-around when you look at it. Alabama, at South Carolina, at Tennessee. Like I said, we're going to dive a little bit further into it and really talk about this. But, you guys go ahead and put your predictions down in the chat for me, and I will get to the live chat here in just a moment. And a quick reminder, if you do leave a donation or super chat, if you've got an urgent question you want answered on the air, that will 100% be read. I'll be able to see that pop up immediately, and it will be at the top of the list to be read on the show. But diving into it, and looking non-conference games, you got Illinois State, Temple, Kent State, all winnable games. But obviously, you risk overlooking opponents, especially maybe an opponent like Kent State, overlooking them preparing for Texas, which Kent State October 4th, and then Texas, I believe that's October 10th, the very following week. Let me double check that. October 11th, so one day off there, but. So you do have to be careful about overlooking an opponent like Kent State. I mean, Oklahoma fans know that pretty well when you think about back in 2022 when Oklahoma only led, 7-3 at halftime, by 4 points at halftime. And then, of course, closing out the game on a good note and looking much better at the end of that game. But Kent State also took, if I remember correctly, it might have been that same season or maybe the season after, took Georgia down to kind of a close upset alert almost. You never really feel like they're going to upset you, but who knows? So, I think looking at it, you have to make sure that you don't overlook those opponents. Illinois State, Temple, Kent State, all teams that you just want to handle business and do it the right way. Go out there and look good. I think the way that Oklahoma looked against Temple, it wasn't anything flashy, but it felt good the way that you dominated there. And, ultimately looking at how the defense performed. You took a lot away from the defense. The offense was just, we felt like they really weren't throwing everything out there, and that's what the Oklahoma coaching staff even said. Excuse me, I do have to keep on checking my phone. Like I said, there is a baseball commit that I am not allowed to share a name yet. That I'm waiting to see when I am allowed to hit share on that name. Anyways, going back to it, uh, thinking of this SEC slate, of course, Auburn, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, all at home, and then South Carolina, Tennessee, Alabama, all on the road. And comparing it to last season, really not much different. You've got the same SEC opponents, just swapping whether you're going to play them. And, I will say, so LSU would be much tougher in Death Valley, the way that Oklahoma played them last season. But I believe that this LSU team coming to Norman is a much better and experienced, more poised, more chemistry to their program. I think this is going to be a better LSU team than it was last season. So I really rank the difficulty of this game against LSU this season, even though it's at home. I rank the difficulty just about the same. I wouldn't say quite the same because obviously Death Valley is just obnoxiously loud, an obnoxious environment. And then same thing with Auburn. I think this game should be easier. I feel more confident in beating Auburn, even though I think they, again, more poised, a little bit older, and more experienced in the wide receiver room than they were last season. I think there's a lot of good pieces that have gone together there. I'm still questionable on Jackson Arnold. I just don't think he's going to fit into the RPO system unless Hugh Freeze is more of a magician than I give him credit for. But Auburn, I would say, is probably a little bit easier being at home because Auburn, I don't know what to expect from them. I think they're going to be a better team, but we get the home field advantage. And whereas last season at Auburn is another really tough one. I think that game, for two reasons, you had a quarterback that just wasn't ready for that environment. And I'm not blaming, I think Michael Hawkins Jr. did a great job in that game, given the fact that was his first career start. But he wasn't really ready for that environment. I think he would agree with that. As ready as he could be, but that's a crazy environment to just be thrown into for your first collegiate start. You take that into effect, along with the poor offensive play calling, not putting even the correct personnel in the game at the right times. Oklahoma fans who can remember last season probably know exactly what I'm talking about there. So anyways, Auburn, I think, will be slightly better, slightly easier this season. Ole Miss, I think, will be quite a bit easier this season. I think that's a game that Oklahoma can feel good about. Missouri at home, that should be a win. I felt that Oklahoma should have taken down Missouri on the road. But, yeah, I don't know. Alabama on the road, this is questionable to me. I think it's going to be about the same difficulty. In my mind, I'm thinking same difficulty just because it's at Tuscaloosa, much tougher environment, but I don't know what to expect from their team. Maybe the same difficulty because I think last season's Alabama team might have been better, but I might be wrong on that. I just don't know what the quarterback situation is going to look like there. I think it could be a better situation without Jalen Milroe, but it could also be proven wrong. So possibly a tougher situation there. South Carolina is going to be tougher. They're going to be a better team. Same thing that I was saying about LSU. I think South Carolina is going to be a better team. Lenore Sellers, into his second season, much more familiar with this team and what he's capable of. Of course, Oklahoma knows what to expect from him, but South Carolina is going to be a better team, and you're on the road in Columbia. Tennessee, this is one that I have question marks on. Knoxville is no easy place to play in. Again, another brutal environment. But the team should be more beatable, in my opinion. Is it Joey or Jake Aguilar? I know I screwed up his name when I was going through my rankings of quarterbacks. Whoever their starting quarterback is, it's going to be a step down, in my opinion. And again, might be wrong. So that makes me believe that Tennessee should probably be an easier game, but it's in Knoxville. You can't overlook that. And then, of course, Texas, down in Dallas. We'll talk about Arch Manning maybe a little bit here a little bit later. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, comparing these games and comparing them to what Oklahoma saw. Now, the biggest one is September 6th. This is also, I think, a season-defining game early in the season. It's only the second game of the season, so I have a hard time saying that. but it does feel like you finally get the first real impression against Michigan. I think Michigan is going to be better than they were last season. Of course, Oklahoma didn't play them last season, but I have no reason to believe that Michigan, as long as they are somewhat healthy, that they wouldn't be better than they are, because they at least have a quarterback that they can kind of, and Bryce Underwood, that they can kind of rely on. Now he's going to be a true freshman, his first true night game, and it's also going to be the first true road test for him. So I think that this is a game that I'm really looking forward to. You think it's the toughest non-conference game of Oklahoma's schedule by far, because I don't think anybody would put Michigan below Illinois State, Temple, or Kent State. But I think looking at that game, it's going to be tough. And I'll give my predictions, my true predictions on these towards the end, and really give you what I think Oklahoma could pull off. And that's at this time. That's going to change once I get closer to season. After I see what happens with spring ball, that's when I'll release an official prediction on where I think Oklahoma can be. I think right now Vegas has Oklahoma at over under 6.5. I would lean over. I don't know why you would take the under. Most people would agree with me. Most people out there. Anyways, so with Bryce Underwood being a new quarterback, it's kind of an uncertainty there. We'll see kind of what he's able to do through spring. I was not through spring, but through fall practices. After, once we get closer to fall, I think I said spring earlier as well. But as we get closer to fall, we'll probably have a better understanding of what Bryce Underwood can do. I think there was a lot of criticism about Bryce Underwood because of how he performed in the spring, and I really don't think that that's necessarily. I don't think that's necessarily fair for a true freshman to come in and expect him to perform well. So that's definitely something to take a look at, and I'll definitely have more of an understanding about him as we get closer to fall, and then especially after that first game that Michigan has, which I'm drawing a blank on the top of my head who that is, but it's a smaller school. I think New Mexico State, one of those teams. But anyways, I think we'll have a little bit of more of an understanding of who Bryce Underwood is. Is he ready for Oklahoma? And I don't think you can say he's 100% ready, just like what I said about Michael Hawkins Jr. last season going into Auburn. There's no way you can be prepared 100% as a true freshman going in there as your first true road environment. So we'll take a look at that. And I do think Oklahoma would be favored in this game. I haven't looked up game by game and seeing if there are any kind of Vegas odds on these yet, but I'd be interested to see that. Anyways, going on to Texas, this one I think is a narrative-defining game, especially if you end up winning against Michigan. So let's say that the Sooners take care of business against Michigan and even beat them by double digits. You still kind of have some question marks because there are still questions about Michigan that early in the season. And also both teams are working off rust. So you don't really know who Michigan is. Not only that, but it could have been just a matter of you had the better preparation going into that week. The game of football is weird like that. When you get to Texas in October, you have a very good understanding of what this team is and what they're capable of doing, and it's going to have to be tested by Texas in Dallas. If you haven't been to a Red River game, I haven't yet. I feel like that's got to be a bucket list for every Sooner fan. Most college football fans. If you're a real college football fan, that should be a bucket list, right? Anyways, that's going to be the season-defining, the narrative-defining game, and that's really what I personally am looking forward to the most, to truly understand who this Oklahoma team is, because even whether they beat Michigan or whether they lose to Michigan, you really don't know because we don't know enough about Michigan. I think Michigan is very similar. If you go back and listen to what Chad and Tierney Smith on the Sooner Smiths, what they talked with TJ about, a fellow Voice of College Football host, and what they were talking to him about is kind of going through the similarities of how similar Oklahoma is. Two offensive lines that didn't perform very well last season, were banged up, didn't have a quarterback to really perform, and I don't know how much you blame on either of the quarterbacks for Michigan or Oklahoma, and you didn't have a receiver that you could really feel confident in, and so anyways, you look through, and I apologize, for those who are just tuning in, I do have to keep an eye on my phone. Important stuff coming through here in the upcoming moments. Hopefully, I'm done with this before that comes through, so I can focus on each. And so I do apologize for that, for having to keep on checking that. But anyways, Michigan and Oklahoma very similar season last year, and also very similar situations, almost identical, very close to identical. So it's not really going to tell you anything about either of these teams unless it's totally lopsided one way or the other, which I don't think would be that way. Anyways, going on to South Carolina, October 18th, LaNorris Sellers. That's maybe a dark horse for the Heisman. I don't even know if you can call him a dark horse because I think a lot of people have him on their radar. I think I've even looked into Heisman contention, and I'm pretty sure he's up there. So I don't even think I can name him a dark horse. Some might want to call him that, but I don't think he's a dark horse. LaNorris Sellers is going to be good. We saw what he was capable of last season as a true freshman, and now with a little bit more experience, much more experience, and also understanding, getting to know the team a little bit better. There's a lot with LaNorris Sellers that I think is going to be absolutely great. And I think he can lead this team to be very good. I think South Carolina is going to be better this year because of LaNorris Sellers and his experience, and then other key pieces that they've added around him. So that's going to be very interesting. Plus, Oklahoma faces them post-Texas, which is kind of a potential trap game just for the – I don't know if you call it a trap game because, again, it's not a team that you would overlook. But it's a potential game that Oklahoma comes into beat up and giving everything there, in the Texas game. And so you don't have any energy left. Maybe you're banged up, and you're keeping an eye on that kind of stuff. So that's definitely a game to look at. I think South Carolina and Oklahoma are going to be a very close matchup. Last season, honestly, you look at you look at what Oklahoma dealt with last season. I felt that after the first turnover, I felt like, man, I think that the way that all played out in the first three offensive drives, turning it over 3 consecutive times, and then two of those were touchdowns to get South Carolina off to a 21-0 start very quickly in the game. I felt that after the first one, I'm feeling really bad about having Michael Hawkins in there. And then sure enough, he throws, I believe, the pick 6 on the second one. It might have been the scoop and score, one or the other. And then, at that point, I'm like, okay, you have to. You're already down 14-0 with hardly any time off the clock. You have got to just swap him out. I know that Jackson Arnold was expected to possibly make a return because of what happened the week before in the Texas game. And that whole thing, anyways, very similar situation could happen against South Carolina. I don't think it's going to be the same. It's not going to be the same game at all. It's going to be 2 much more even teams going against each other. I felt like last season there was 2 even teams. It was just that Oklahoma got themselves off to such a horrible start that there was no way they were coming back from that. Anyways, going on to Neyland Stadium, tough environment, but new quarterback. He's not going to outshine. Aguilar's not going to outshine Mateer. Or there's also a freshman that they could go with, and I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I don't think that's going to be it. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback for Tennessee, honestly. Haven't heard anything one way or the other. I don't think that they're ready to announce it. I would expect that Tennessee's still going to be a good team, but I think they're going to be like a 8-win good team, not a 9-10 win good team, as they would have been predicted if things would have worked out more in their favor with Nico Iamaleava. So ultimately, Tennessee's one of those. Tough environment. I really don't know what to expect from Tennessee, though. They could surprise everybody and be way better than we expect. I don't see it. Then you go to Alabama. No Jalen Milroe, which could be a good thing. It could be just who cares. It might actually be a bad thing because Jalen Milroe was the biggest reason why Alabama got shut down last season. And I understand that there was the one touchdown that should have probably counted. What are you going to do about it now? Even if you gave them that one touchdown, they still lost by 11 points. Maybe it would have given them something else in the game. Sure, I'll give you that. But no, I don't know. Alabama, no Jalen Milroe, so you're probably looking at Ty Simpson, most likely. It's still uncertain technically, but I think Ty Simpson's probably the guy to go to, and I think he could be better for many reasons, and I think he fits the system that Kalen DeBoer wants to run. I think Kalen DeBoer was trying to tailor to Jalen Milroe too much, rather than just having Jalen Milroe being able to step into his system. It just wasn't going to happen. And it was a smart move by Kalen DeBoer to do such, but I think that was ultimately what did them in. Another key game, LSU. Like I mentioned before, this is going to be, this is like a possible playoff team that you're going against. LSU may totally flop, but Garrett Nussmeier, being the veteran that he is, I personally think the best SEC quarterback coming into this season. Again, that could totally flip in a season's notice. He had a really good season last year, and he didn't even have the full potential around him that he has, I think, this year. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this LSU game because, again, I don't have the date on that one. I do. It's in my notes. November 29th. Don't know why I wasn't looking at it right in front of my face. But, Garrett Nussmeier, he's another Heisman contender. And, from what I saw last season and what I know what he's capable of, as long as things were to go the same way this upcoming season, which I don't have any reason to believe that they wouldn't, then this is going to be a really big year for LSU. It could be. As long as their defense takes a step in the right direction. They're kind of the opposite of Oklahoma, except they won more games last season. They're kind of the opposite of Oklahoma last season, where the offense was very good, very, very capable of doing just about anything. A national championship contender offense without the defense to back them up, where Oklahoma was the complete opposite. Defense, no offense to back them up. So this is a big one. Oklahoma has to take advantage of a home field advantage. Come up with something extra to, if you're the Oklahoma staff, prepare something extra to get the fans totally rowdy, just absolutely rowdy and ready to roll, because that needs to be like, you need to take LSU's stadium atmosphere and turn that back on them. I don't think that's possible, but prove me wrong. Oklahoma's got a great atmosphere, right? But LSU, if you haven't been to LSU, if you haven't even just watching it on TV, it doesn't do it justice, but you can still tell the difference, even just watching it on TV. When the cameras are shaking because of the noise in there, that's how you know it's a pretty dang good environment. But, looking through this schedule, it's not necessarily just the teams, but it's the teams, the way that they're lined up. And you look at what Oklahoma's got. Starting off with Illinois State to go into Michigan is a great setup for Oklahoma. It's exactly what you want. And then you've got Temple, Kent State. As long as you use that properly, that leads you into Texas, and that's exactly how you want it. A little bit of a rust breaker for your first game. Go into a tough game where you feel good about what you're seeing on the field, whether to predict one way or the other. Kind of depends on the outcome of the game. But if you were to win, you feel good because you just beat a quality opponent, hopefully a quality opponent. And if you lose, and you lose respectably, then you feel like, okay, we learned something about ourselves and we can turn this thing around. And that can be the adversity that helps boost you. It's not always a bad thing to lose. Obviously, it is a bad thing, but it's not everything about a loss is bad, is what I mean. So, it's not the teams that Oklahoma faces per se that makes this so scheduled, but it's 5 straight tough games, and I think you could even make it 7 straight tough games. You look through it. So you start off Texas, and then the very next week, South Carolina. The next game, you've got Ole Miss. The next game, you've got Tennessee. The next game, you've got Alabama. The next game, you've got Missouri. The next game, you've got LSU. That's 7 straight games of quality opponents, whether they're great opponents or not, whether they're really good opponents. I don't know. The time will tell. So you've got to look at just what's ahead for Oklahoma. I mean, there is a ton of really tough games there, and I might have said some of those out of line as well. So apologies if I did. I don't have the dates right in front of me, but I did have that much. Anyways, I mean, you have just the way that this is all lined up makes it very difficult, makes it extremely difficult. And that's ultimately what I think Oklahoma has to watch out for. Yeah, so I think I had that right because it's Auburn, then Kent State, and it kind of gives you a little bit of a game that should be kind of a get ready for Texas. As long as you utilize that right, that's the way you want to do it. Then you've got South Carolina, Ole Miss, and I believe there's not a bye week between there. Then at Tennessee, then there's a bye week, and then you've got Alabama. So yeah, just it's the way that everything's lined up for Oklahoma that makes this extremely difficult. It makes it a very difficult road because you've got trips to South Carolina, Tennessee, and all Alabama, all in there, mixed in there, for some really brutal away games. Luckily for Oklahoma, those are your 3 away games that you've really got to worry about. Where last season it felt like an overwhelmingly amount of away games because you had Auburn, LSU, Ole Miss, and Missouri all away, plus the Texas neutral site game against really a better Texas team. So, yeah, there's a lot about that. There's even some in the media, I think even in J.D. Piquel, who kind of noted that, with how difficult this Oklahoma schedule is, but it's manageable because, and I know J.D. Piquel is one that I'm thinking of off the top of my head that I do know mentioning that John Mateer kind of helps Oklahoma get the edge in some of these games. Again, specifically talking about the quarterback battles between these teams. So that's a big thing. And when you look at the quarterback battles, the reason why Oklahoma has the upper edge in these quarterback battles with John Mateer, again, because he's going into a system that he's well familiar with, he understands it completely, and so that gives Oklahoma a little bit of an upper edge there because yes, he's on a new team, but not a new system, not a new offensive coordinator, and he's already fitting in really well as well. Anyways, going on to some of the analysts' predictions, starting off with Josh Pate and his prediction. He put Oklahoma at number 10 in his spring top 20, and I don't remember if he said this was his top 20 ratings or his top 20 rankings, but he had Oklahoma in the top 10. Showing that he really feels like there's something there with Oklahoma and what they've done in this offseason to feel good about it. Oklahoma fans loved to see it, but also hate the maybe a possible overhyping this team. I can understand both ways. And again, I believe Josh Pate was another guy that mentioned how John Mateer gives them kind of an upper edge. John Mateer and Ben Arbuckle, Jaden Ott, all giving them a little bit of an upper edge to what they've done in this offseason, adding, of course, what Jim Nagy has been able to do. And so not only that, but you think of what they've done on the offense mixed with this top 15 to 30 overall defense. I mean, a top 25, absolutely, I feel like. Most likely. That's my prediction. So it's a big, a big step forward compared to what 2024 gave. J.D. Piquel, he even bet on Oklahoma. Now, I don't know if he actually put money on him or if he just kind of comes out and says that he's taking the over. But he was talking about that over-under 6.5 wins for Oklahoma and that Vegas line and took the over on Oklahoma, feeling very, very confident. Again, he cited John Mateer and the quarterback advantage against matchups like Michigan, possibly even Texas. We don't really know what to understand with Arch. Even Auburn, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Excuse me. Even Missouri. So, I think Mateer is one of the best going into this season. I feel like John Mateer is, at worst, top 5 best quarterbacks going into the SEC this season. And you can criticize that all you want. I truly believe that that's the case. Even Joel Klatt kind of talked, he kind of took part of kind of this offseason buzz with Oklahoma and talking about OU's transfer portal success and what they've done there and some of the moves and how he feels that Oklahoma could have a bounce back season. Even Andy Staples and Ari Wasserman both kind of projecting Oklahoma as like that playoff bubble team that, hey, they could surprise people and make it just on the outside, maybe a 9-win team where they're hoping, like we saw with Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss last season, where Oklahoma's in that discussion. And Oklahoma fans will take that this year. I feel like most Oklahoma fans will take that this year. They would hope for more. But if you made it to the point that you're being talked about for the playoffs, you feel much better about the trajectory of this team going forward. And, I think even Andy Staples kind of aligned with this same optimism centering around Mateer and the impact that he makes, and Ben Arbuckle making an impact on this offense. Even Jake Crane and the Crane and Company guys. I like Jake Crane a lot. I would call him a good guy. I don't know if I could officially call him a friend, but an acquaintance at the very least. He's been great to me. Anyways, Jake Crane was talking about Oklahoma and bringing them up as one of these like sleeper teams that could possibly make the playoffs. And there's a reason why everyone's looking at Oklahoma in this light. And I know it seems like a lot of hype. It seems like everyone's kind of throwing too much hype. And so if you're an Oklahoma fan, I feel like you have to be a little bit extra skeptical because of so many people tuning in on that and jumping in on that offseason buzz. But I really think that there's a reason for all of these talking heads to be talking about Oklahoma. And Oklahoma fans don't really have to feel like you're being a homer or being biased just because you see the good things that are going on and you feel excited about them. I don't think that's the case at all. So, that's definitely something. I think optimistic, Oklahoma could go 9-3 or 10-2. I think with the optimistic lens, I think that's reasonable to be optimistic about. With this tough of a schedule, I don't think you're going to win 11 or 12 games. I just don't think that's going to happen unless you catch teams that you're not supposed to beat on the. First of all, you have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. That was the problem last season. Oklahoma did not beat the teams that they were supposed to beat. I think when you group teams like Ole Miss, not because Ole Miss was not as good of a team, but because of the way that Oklahoma was performing the first half, specifically the first quarter against Ole Miss, you should have beat Ole Miss. Oklahoma also should have beat Missouri last season. I personally think Oklahoma should have beat South Carolina. You can call me crazy for believing that, but I really think that Oklahoma should have beat South Carolina. Without those 3 turnovers, what kind of game does that turn into? I think it's much more contested, and Oklahoma has a very good chance at home with that defense. If the Oklahoma offense was more competent, if you would have trusted in your key running backs and put the right personnel in at the right times. Alabama was a team that Oklahoma should not have beat, and they ended up beating them at home. So, and I think Oklahoma should have been more competitive with LSU for obvious reasons. They weren't. And you might even be able to blame one guy that I know you guys really didn't like last season. But, the pessimistic, and at that note too, if Oklahoma's a 9-3 team with this schedule, Oklahoma is absolutely on the verge. 10-2, I think Oklahoma is in the playoffs. It would take a lot of craziness for Oklahoma to be out of the playoffs. If they were if those 2 losses were Temple and Illinois State, maybe Oklahoma doesn't make it into the playoffs. Maybe. And other teams are also stacked up at 10-2. I don't know. That I imagine 10-2 Oklahoma's in. 9-3, you're right there. You're on the verge of an at-large bid to getting into the playoff. Pessimistic case, I think you kind of look maybe 3 losses being Tennessee. Man, you've got 4 potential really tough games that could probably be losses. Let's say LSU, Tennessee, South Carolina, Texas. Those are the ones that I think you mark down as I have a hard time at this point in the offseason. I have a hard time seeing maybe not Tennessee. Tennessee's not one of them that I'm thinking of. Might be Alabama because it's at Tuscaloosa. Tennessee, I think Oklahoma could pull off the win there. But Texas, South Carolina, Alabama, LSU. Let's say that those are the 4 that I have a hard time giving to Oklahoma at all. But obviously there's some scenario where I see Alabama not being as tough, and so Oklahoma might take a game there. So you're kind of on that 8-9 win teeter-totter, in my opinion. And I'll go through each team and kind of give my prediction of whether I think they'll win or lose. here in just a second. But, it's so pessimistic outlook. I think the floor is 7-5, or and 8-4 is kind of like your low end of what you want as an Oklahoma fan. I don't think you want 8-4, but Oklahoma fans want the worst possible situation to be that Oklahoma goes 8-4. I think that that's pretty universal. I think Oklahoma fans would be content with the fact that they went 8-4 if that was the worst possible season that they could pull away from this season. Looking forward, obviously that could be 8-4 could feel really bad if those 4 losses were just like, man, you screwed it up here, you screwed it up there. You were one play away from winning these 2 games, and you could have been 10 wins. You look at it different, obviously. But anyways, ESPN's FPI even projected Oklahoma the 17 most likely champions, very low percentage odds to make it, but they're up there. They're being talked about, and for good reason. I'm gonna jump on, and I'm gonna get to the chat. So make sure to jump into live chat again. All super chats, donations, those will be read on the show. Otherwise, I'll just try to get to the ones that I can catch with my eyes. And apologies, I don't have someone here to help me kind of dive through them and have them ready to go. So I'll kind of be reading them on the cuff as I go through them. But I'll kind of give you my predictions, and I'm going to bring this back up as well, if I can get my mouse to work with me. Let me bring this back up, and I'll kind of go through these, starting off with the non-conference games. Illinois State, Michigan, Temple, Kent State. Michigan is absolutely a coin flip for me. I'll throw that one out there. The other 3, they're must wins. You have to win those. So Michigan is a coin flip. I believe Oklahoma beats Michigan. So that's one of them that I give Oklahoma the upper edge because I just don't know what to expect from Bryce Underwood. Now, that might be different when we see him closer to fall. After the first week, my mind will be set on whether I think Oklahoma wins this game or not. But as of right now, I believe Oklahoma gets the upper edge there. It's tough to tell. So, again, roast me with your comments all you want. But I think Oklahoma has the upper edge slightly. Again, because of John Mateer and this Ben Arbuckle offense. Even if Oklahoma has what they had at wide receiver last season, which I think is going to be better. Offensive line is going to be better. But even if they had similar to what they saw last season, just Jaden Ott being added to the running back room. So you've got Xavier Robinson, Javonte Barnes, Jaden Ott, Taylor Tatum. I'm sure I'm forgetting one in there. But with this running back room, adding another key piece in the running back room, plus John Mateer and his ability. I mean, look at the overall season stats for John Mateer and tell me that's not impressive regardless of who he's going against. So, and go back and look at the Washington game from John Mateer. Some crazy good highlights from him there, specifically just knowing when to tuck the ball and run in certain situations where he might have he might have the play to pass the ball, but instead he tucks it and runs to gain something big. That Washington game last year was really big. Anyways, in those 4 non-conference games, I give the 3 obvious ones to Oklahoma. Michigan is a back and forth. I think Oklahoma wins that one. Auburn. I think Oklahoma beats Auburn. I do think that they're going to be a better team than last year, because you can't tell me that Jackson Arnold is not better than Peyton Thorne. Regardless of what system he's going into, regardless of how Oklahoma fans might think about Jackson Arnold is a step up. How big of a step up, that's yet to be seen. But Jackson Arnold is a step up from Peyton Thorne. I think Auburn fans would agree with me. I think Oklahoma fans should agree with me. You might be biased in the wrong sense, but you should feel good about that. Anyways, Auburn, I think, is a win because of the home field advantage. That's what I'm giving it to right now. Oklahoma might win really big. I don't know. LSU, I'm going to mark LSU as a loss for Oklahoma just because I don't see a good scenario at this point in the season where Oklahoma comes out of that with a win. Now, they could be competitive. I see that very easily. I think Oklahoma should be competitive with them this season. Again, all of that's optimism, but they should be. Ole Miss at home, I want to give this one kind of similar to, that's not the call that I'm looking for, so I'm going to have to hang that one up. Hopefully that didn't ring through on your guys' end, so I apologize for that. Wasn't thinking that might ring through on the computer as well. But anyways, Ole Miss. I want to give this one to Oklahoma, but it's kind of similar to Michigan. I feel a little bit better about beating Ole Miss than I would Michigan at this point. Um, I don't know why I feel that way because I shouldn't. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what to expect, and I forget Ole Miss's possible starting quarterback. But it'll be his first season as a full time starter. So you know, I don't know. I feel Oklahoma has the upper edge. Missouri, Oklahoma should beat Missouri. It's not one that I'm going to give Oklahoma, but I think they should beat Missouri. Alabama is another one of those. I think I'm going to mark it as a loss right now at this point in the season. I think Alabama will be just as good as last season. I don't know if they'll be better. I think they'll be just as good as last season with the possibility of being better because of the quarterback situation with Ty Simpson. I think that he could be, not should, he could be a better fit for Alabama and specifically Kalen DeBoer's system. Kalen DeBoer has more of his guys in the place that he wants them. I'm going to give that one to Alabama. South Carolina, I think, is going to be competitive. It's going to be very competitive, and I think Oklahoma is going to be very close in that game. But I'm going to give that one to South Carolina as of right now. So we're down to 3 losses, in my opinion, for Oklahoma. The last one, and this is all just kind of, again, there's some of these that are kind of 50-50. I think we can beat Alabama. I think Oklahoma can beat LSU. I think Oklahoma can beat South Carolina. That's not what I'm saying. Just looking at it with a realistic point of view. Tennessee, I think Oklahoma beats Tennessee, but again, kind of maybe in the similar boat as Ole Miss. I think they can beat them, maybe in the similar boat as Ole Miss or Michigan, where Oklahoma can beat them, but it's going to be tough because you're at Knoxville, and I don't know what to expect from Tennessee. Again, I think I feel a little bit better about beating Tennessee than maybe Michigan or Ole Miss, although those 2 games are at home, so that's the main reason why Tennessee's maybe at the same level. And then Texas, I want Oklahoma to win, obviously, but I think Texas might get the win this year. That's another one that I don't know because I don't really know what to expect of Arch Manning. I have no reason to believe that Arch Manning's going to be a flop. I have no reason to believe that. Do I think that Oklahoma has the upper edge when you compare Manning and Mateer? Yeah, I think Oklahoma has the upper edge, but just for the sake of being as unbiased as I possibly can, looking through the schedule, I have Oklahoma at 8-4. Now that's kind of my medium point where I could push that up to a 9-3 by one of these games going the way, which if I were to take one of the 4 losses that I have for Oklahoma, I mean, honestly, I don't know, it'd be between South Carolina and Texas. Maybe Texas would be a little higher than South Carolina as far as optimism for Oklahoma being able to pull that one off. Yeah, I don't know, though. As of right now, I feel like 8-4 is a reasonable expectation for Oklahoma this season. Below 8-4, I can understand the comments flying in about hot seats and all of that. Below 7 wins, absolutely probably out the door. That's where I think Brent Venables is this season. I think 7 is your teeter-totter where it just depends on how that 7 wins goes. Where 8 wins, I think he sticks around, most likely. I don't know why he would go at 8 wins. I think you should feel decent about 8 wins. 6 wins, I think he's probably out the door. And I say probably because, again, you might have some weird things happening that just maybe Oklahoma fans don't like. But anyways, I'm going to jump over to the live chat. Let me know what your guys' predictions are. Drop those in the live chat, and I'll try to get to as many of the predictions as I see. Like I said, my prediction, 8-4, that's me being as realistic as possible, but a 9-3 is very, very possible. And that's being optimistic, extremely optimistic. Maybe not extremely. But anyways, jumping over, see all you guys saying Boomer, Sooner right back to you. Some of you saying Sooner back in the response. Kobe Neal says 12-0, a national championship. I love the optimism, and you know what? I think this is what Sooner fans should be more like. More Sooner fans should be like Kobe. You know what? Yeah, 12-0. That's what I want to hear. That's what I want to say. You know, if I'm being totally honest, I want to tell you guys I think Oklahoma's going 12-0. I want to, but that's not the profession that I'm in. I'm not here just to tell you what my feelings are. I'm telling you what I'm realistically looking at on paper, and I do a lot. I mean, you can look. I mean, if I were to share my notes with you guys and what I've got here, it's nothing like what I'm telling you. And in fact, I could probably go for 2 or 3 hours just reading directly off my notes. What I want to tell you is what Kobe's got here, 12-0, and I like that, Kobe. Keep up the optimism because that's what it's all about. That's what being a fan is about, being a fanatic. Sooner Cowboys, what's up, man? He says 8-4 or better. That's what we should expect. And I think Sooner Cowboys. I think you're pretty close-minded with me. I know I've seen you comment well enough to often enough to kind of feel like you probably feel very similar, where you have a hard time being optimistic with this team because of what you saw last season. I think a lot of Oklahoma fans are that way. So yeah, 8-4 or better. I like that because 8-4, but I can see Oklahoma surprising even us Oklahoma fans and being better on offense than we even anticipated. And you know what? I think a 9-3 season where one of those losses is to Michigan, I think Oklahoma is definitely in the playoffs. Again, that kind of depends on everything else going into the playoffs and where everyone else is at. I think if Michigan is one of those losses, the reason why I say that is because that means that you only had 2 losses in conference. That's really good. So what is that? That you'd be going 6-2 in conference. A total flip from what Oklahoma saw last season. Just throwing that out there. Anyways, Jimmy Satterfield, another resident here. What's up, Jimmy? He says 9-3. I like that prediction, and honestly, I think that's a reasonable yet optimistic prediction, right? And that's kind of what I've been saying. I think 9-3 is a reasonable yet optimistic. I can understand why maybe a Texas fan or an Alabama fan, SEC fans, might look at Oklahoma fans saying 9-3. Did you see what happened to Oklahoma last season? You really think they're going to go 9-3? I can understand where fans outside and other other teams, and specifically within the conference, might look at you and laugh at you for saying, we believe that Oklahoma could go 9-3. But as an Oklahoma fan, knowing what should be on paper, what shows up on paper and what should be, Oklahoma can expect that reasonably. That's optimistic for sure, but it's a reasonable optimism. Chuck Carney says, Carney or Kearney, I'm not sure, because I'm trying to remember. There's somebody. Oh, obviously, there's Zion Kearney, I believe is how you say Zion's last name. Anyways, Chuck says at least 8-4. I agree, Sooner Cowboys. He agrees with. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sooner Cowboys as well because, yeah, I mean, it's just I think 8-4 is what you should expect from Oklahoma. Eight wins is doable here. So let's count them down. Illinois State, Temple, Kent State. Those are the 3 that we're giving to Oklahoma. Games that you should be able to win. You've got Auburn, Missouri, Michigan. And I'll say Tennessee. You should be able to win because of what we know about Michigan. That's 7 of them right there that I just counted off. And of course, one of those might not go your way. So let's just say 6 games that we feel like Oklahoma should win. Ole Miss might even be able to be in that boat. You should win against Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss is good. I understand what Lane Kiffin's got being built over there. But I don't know. I just feel like 8 wins is there. Because I feel like there's 6 that you should win, regardless of which order you want to put them in and which ones you feel like Oklahoma should win. I feel like there's 6 games there that Oklahoma should win. Which means that if you can win the should wins, win 2 more that you shouldn't win or that you have a coin flip on. Win 2 more. So 8 wins, I think, is reasonable, and I think it should be expected by Oklahoma fans, personally. Kobe Neal says, Gut Nussmeier is a turnover machine. I don't understand his hype at all. Go back and really look at overall, not just stats. Here, I'll pull up Garrett Nussmeier's Nussmeier, if I can spell properly. Garrett Nussmeier stats. I'll pull this up real quick because 12 interceptions on the year. I guess I'm not sure what his fumbling is. Let me see if I can get that real quick. Not easily, but I can probably pull it up. Yeah, it's not going to pull up right away for me. So the 12 interceptions. He's got 4,000 yards from last season. 4,000 yards with a questionable offense. An offense that the offensive line didn't perform to their best ability. Not as bad as Oklahoma, but not to their best ability. 29 passing touchdowns. And let's see, he's got 3 more on the ground. I mean those are some really good stats in of itself. A mid 60s, so he had 64% completion percentage. I see a lot of good things out of Nesmeyer. I'm not criticizing you if you don't see it. We all have different opinions, right? I look at what I saw from Garrett Nesmeyer last year was a guy that's under pressure way too much. I wonder if it'll show me. Yeah, so it'll show me 16 sacks last season. So he's getting sacked every game and then some. So a guy that is pressured way too quickly, way too often, even against Oklahoma. What he did against Oklahoma, he was injured for a good portion of this game. Let me remind you, still threw 277 through 277 passing yards, 3 touchdowns through the air. So he also got sacked twice in that game, but he was pressured a lot. So I mean, there's a reason why I think Garrett Nussmeier is hyped. I don't think it's overhype. That's my opinion, but it could be. Chuck says, "You think Auburn is going to be better?" No, sir. Why wouldn't they be better? I don't know why they wouldn't be better. What got worse about Auburn? Because I don't think they could get any worse, and I don't think they're going to be the same. I mean, I think they make a bowl game this year, 6 wins. I think they have to make a bowl game this year. Going to modern day caveman motto this season: no more excuses. All we ever hear is wait till BV gets his guys. Well, he has them. I totally agree with you. There are no more excuses. The only excuse, not even excuse, the only reason that I will take, that's why 7 wins is kind of that teeter-totter mark. I think 7 games, if I was making the decision as an emotional Oklahoma fan, I would say 7 games, get him out of here. But understanding the difficulty of this schedule, and if this schedule proves to be even more difficult, let's say that Ole Miss and Tennessee are tougher than what we're giving him credit for right now. I'll even throw Auburn in that. Maybe not Auburn, Michigan. Let's say that those 3 teams are tougher than we're giving them credit right now. And Oklahoma comes away with 7 wins, but it could have been 9 or possibly 10 with a couple of things being flipped. Maybe there was a turnover that shouldn't have happened. Then I can understand where Oklahoma would have a hard time letting him go at 7 wins if that were the case. That's drawing up best case scenario of a 7-win season. Other than that, yeah, I can't draw up. That's the most I can really defend a 7-win season, and it's hard. But I do agree with you, modern day caveman. There's no more excuses. There really isn't, because I think Oklahoma has kind of drawn the line with the excuses. You can blame last season. Obviously, there was excuses last season, right? This upcoming season, you just can't have those same excuses, and you've got to get rid of it. Let's see. Chuck says, "I do get what you mean. No excuses because they won't help it anyway." Yeah. I'm right there with you, Chuck. I agree. No excuses, because you really do need to start looking for turning this program around now, and I think Jim Nagy is the right guy in the front office to help with that. So that's definitely it. The only way Texas can beat OU is if OU is injured. I don't know if I totally agree with that, but I like the optimism. Again, I'm not gonna diss anybody for being optimistic. I know I see a lot of Oklahoma fans taking down Oklahoma fans, cutting them down for being optimistic. I would prefer every Oklahoma fan just be the most optimistic you can possibly be. I try to be a realist because I'm an Oklahoma fan, but I also cover the sport, and so I want to cover it fairly to where you guys hear the other side, the opposing side from it as well. That's the only reason why I'm not going to be as optimistic, and I'm also going to be more graceful in some ways, for players' sake or coaches' sake. I'm going to be more graceful where I don't think Oklahoma fans necessarily should be. So you know what? That's where I kind of stand there. Chuck says, "Man, all these other big time schools are getting recruits left and right. Oklahoma is on the verge of just breaking through. Oklahoma had 2, and apologies, I didn't really get to recruits tonight. I didn't have a whole lot of time to take down some of that because of the stuff that I've been covering." Okay. So yeah. So anyways, yeah, that's it. So Cat is out of the bag. That's what I was just now told. Cat is out of the bag, which I'm going to hit post on some of these real quick. So apologies for that. But Cat is out of the bag. There is Cam Johnson, the second Cam Johnson. There's Camden Johnson has committed to the Oklahoma Sooners, an infielder. So yeah, the Cat has been out of the bag. It's just as an Oklahoma reporter, we want to make sure that we are not uh, letting out these names and starting to throw this out there before the player is ready. So that's a big reason why we were holding on to it. I knew for a while and I couldn't say anything, can't release all that. Anyways, getting back to it. Oklahoma's been doing pretty good. Two recruits and within 24 hours, I think within 48 hours, maybe at least. And there's a lot more lined up from official visits. So stay tuned. And I will try to get more out this week on some of the recruiting as well. Hashtag Sooners keeping all receipts. I like that, Bishop Franklin or Bishop Frank Dr. Newkirk. Is that doctor? Anyways, yeah, I like that a lot. I'm gonna start using that. One second here. Sorry, I have to respond here. That's part of doing what I'm doing. But I am going to start using that hashtag. I like that one a lot because we're keeping receipts. You know, all these teams that are cutting down. Again, I apologize, and I should be done with all the breaks, hopefully. But anyways, yeah, that's a lot. That's what a lot of the teams outside, all the fans are kind of cutting down Oklahoma. They're cutting down Oklahoma fans for being optimistic. Keep those receipts for sure. This is one, Kobe. I'm not going to agree with you on this. Lenore Sellers is so maybe Lenore Sanders is what you meant in that regard. Maybe he is overrated. I don't know. But Lenore Sellers, I don't think he's overrated personally. I'm not going to agree with you. His defense is what carries his weight. I feel like maybe you haven't seen the tape. That's a pretty good dude right there. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to agree with you there. Anyways, you already answered that. Going down through here. I apologize, guys. There was a lot of comments, and I've also got other things I've got to answer to. So I'm going to have to get back to all of that. But anyways, I appreciate everybody so much for joining in live tonight. I know I was kind of sidetracked here, but I do have to keep up with other things as well. So apologies for that. But I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tune in on Thursday. Thursday, I should be much more tuned in, hopefully. And make sure to tune in on Thursday, 7 p.m. We're also going to do a live call-in show so you guys can call in. Anyways, I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.